Mount Allison Faculty Association, and in fact that is my full-time job. And I'm a part-time political scientist, a part-time professor, and universities and other entities, whether rich or poor, have also gone down the road of what we call casualization, which is to say, I work 1.5 jobs, but I don't exactly get 1.5 salaries for that. So you may hear someone as a professor on the radio, but you can't necessarily assume, or it may or may not be the case, that they're one of the really well-paid permanent members of the faculty. They could in fact be someone who basically works part-time, and if they were depending only on part-time work, they would probably be actually living in poverty. We do have some members who are in that situation. That's true in Moncton and Fredericton and St. John as well. So I just want to, in a sense, suggest that sometimes the hardship is spread all around, and even in places you wouldn't expect it, there can be hardship for some people. My talk today is on, as Linda says, the state of the province and the impact on the fight against poverty. What I want to do is just really pull together some of the really great ideas that have been presented by Claude and others, and then some of your comments and interjections. And I want to pick up on some of what the Common Front has produced as well in the document that we got at registration, like the kinds of questions we should be asking political candidates in public forums when they come around, and in a sense getting involved in the election. As you know, we're having an election at the end of September. This is after 4 years of the Green government. And the perspective I would bring to this is to say that it seems to me that we have two parties, the Liberals and Progressive Conservatives, and these are both parties of big money in New Brunswick and business-oriented parties. And we have the system where we've always alternated between one and the other. So we go from Frank McKenna, and then at the end Camille Theriault, and then Bernard Lord, and then Sean Graham, and we'll see what happens. So we go from one to the other, one to the other. Now, of course, we do have a few other movements in the province, the New Democratic Party, the Green Party of New Brunswick, this New People's Alliance Party. But I think we also have to ask the same questions, not only of the two major parties, but all the others who are seeking our votes. Because I think we need to, for one thing, I think we need to make sure that the issues of poverty and the issues of casual work and the working poor, I was happy that someone mentioned the working poor, we have to make sure those issues are not ignored in the election. And we have to make sure that there is discussion of those issues, and that leaders and parties have to take positions on those issues. I think there's a couple of major themes I want to develop, and one is that really for 25 or 30 years we've lived with this whole idea of, you could call it neoconservatism or neoliberalism. It was really first wholeheartedly implemented, or an effort was made to implement it in the Frank McKenna era, and then it was picked up by Bernard Lord and Sean Graham, and there have been variations and so on, but this was a big departure from what we had in New Brunswick in the 1960s under Louis Robichaud, and in the early Richard Hatfield era in the early 1970s. And I think that period in the 1960s and 1970s, when people talk about Canadian values, I think those values were much better represented in that period. So the idea that there was a vision, that people in politics had a vision, and were appealing to people to support their vision, and a vision like real equal opportunity, or moving towards equal opportunity. And I think we have for 25 or 30 years been told, or they've tried to pitch new values to us that sometimes I think we unconsciously accept these new values. For example, one that comes to mind is that I think in the 1960s and the early 1970s there was a recognition that public services and the welfare state were for everyone, not just for the needy. Because that's one of the big divides is public services and the welfare state for everyone, or is it just for a minority of people who needs it?